Always start Visual Studio as an administrator on Windows 8. Whenever I start Visual Studio 2012 in Windows 8, it always needs administrator permissions to access IIS metadata and debug local web applications on IIS. If I turn UAC off, I cannot launch the Windows 8 simulator. Does anyone know how I can get it to stop with all this security nonsense and just let me get on with my work?
Right-click on the Metro icon for Visual Studio 2012. Click Open File Location. It will put you into the classic Windows desktop with the shortcut for Visual Studio. Right-click on that shortcut and go to Properties. Click Advanced. Check Run as Administrator and click OK. From now on, it will always launch as administrator with elevated privileges. You will need to do this for every shortcut you have to Visual Studio, i.e., if you also have pinned Visual Studio to the taskbar. Right-click the icon. Right-click Visual Studio 2012. Then carry on from step 3 above.
The only way I'm aware of which ensures it will always open as administrator, including when you open from file associations, jump list etc., is locate the devenv.exe file in Explorer. E.g. mine is in C:\program files, x86, /Microsoft Visual Studio 11.0 /common 7 /id Right-click devenv.exe and choose Troubleshoot Compatibility. Select Troubleshoot Program. Select this program requires additional permissions. You'll need to let it launch VS before it lets you click Next, but then you're done. Extremely annoying that you can't just do this through the normal properties dialog anymore. It's like Microsoft are going out of their way to ensure Windows 8 alienates as many people as possible.
Had the same issue. Teammate suggested solution that worked for me is to install vscommands for Visual Studio 2012. Then open vscommands config, set ID enhancements, general. Always start Visual Studio with elevated permissions.
I posted about this on Stack Overflow before finding this question, and then tried everything the other answers here suggested. I started running into some issues right away though. When running versus 2012 with elevated permissions, I was no longer able to drag and drop files into it from Explorer, which I assume is because Explorer isn't running with elevated permissions. Then after I used vscommands to always run Visual Studio with elevated permissions, I was no longer able to open files associated with Visual Studio, aside from solution files, by double-clicking them in Explorer. Visual Studio would open, but then I'd get an error saying there was a problem sending the command to the program dot, and they wouldn't open. This left me having to use the open file dialog if I wanted to open any non-solution/project file. Despite there being no UI to turn off UAC like in the past, that I saw at least, you can still do so through the registry. The key to edit is. After changing this, Windows will prompt you to restart. Once restarted, you'll be back to everything running with admin permissions. If you're an admin, the issues I reported above are now gone as well.
If you want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing.